Great, great. We're so happy to have you on the Addiction 911 show, where we're going to be talking again about what you need to know about the dangerous drug Flakka. And I want to just read Don's introduction here because he's a very special guest. And Don has been working in the substance abuse field for almost 30 years in Broward County, developing a variety of treatment and alternative sentencing programs. He is the former director of the Member Assistance Program, and he is the former director of the Family Institute, and he was instrumental in the development of the Broward Drug Court Program. Don was also the executive director of the National Safety Council, which provided DUI schools in the county, and a director for mental health. During that time, he was an educator for Florida Metropolitan University. And after 24 years, Don continues to serve as the vice president of the advisory board for the Broward Addiction Recovery Center. He's one of the founding fathers of the town of Southwest Ranches and serves as the vice mayor on the town council. And he currently works for the Broward Sheriff's Office as a special advisor for substance abuse research and the Community Programs Division. And this is wonderful to have you here. And in July 2004, it was proclaimed Don Main's Appreciation Day in Broward County for all you've done for the county, and which is absolutely wonderful. So I really want to welcome you here today. Thank you so much for coming here and and helping us understand Flakka and what it's doing to people and all over the country, not only here in South Florida. So Debbie, did you want to start? Do you have your list of questions? Do you want me to start asking Don?
Well, thank you, Don, for joining us. I appreciate it. And I've been doing some background work yesterday and today on Flakka, and I have some questions to ask about the COP plan and about the muscle deterioration. I'm going to get into that later. But I think, first of all, why don't you tell us exactly what Flakka is about the synthetic drug and exactly what it is?
Okay, synthetic drugs they're a man-made substance. They're completely synthetic. They're man-made to mimic the effects of other drugs like cocaine, heroin, crystal meth. There is nothing natural about these drugs at all. They are actually a complex chemistry to change the function of the brain. They are coming from China. Now, the Chinese government doesn't really know that they're manufacturing a drug all the time. They get an order to make a substance, and this order comes over here legally because it comes over as a research product. And it says right on the container, not for human consumption, for research purposes only. It's you can order it underground. There's ways to order it online. It comes over in 40-gallon containers, or it could come over in shampoo boxes, electronic boxes, pool supply boxes, or some people know how to get onto the underground websites and they order it directly from China, and it's guaranteed in 3 to 5 days. They also guarantee that if it's incepted by customs, they will resend it out free of charge. For the latest drug deliverers in our area right now are DHL, UPS, and our post office. They don't realize that they're delivering this product, but it comes over in the mail.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't it made from the chemical alpha PVP?
That's the substance, is alpha PVP. Now, the reason it's called Flakka, it didn't start in Broward County. It actually started over in the west coast of San Francisco, LA, San Diego, went into Colorado a little bit, and then came around into Florida. And when it got the Spanish component in Florida, they called it Flakka, which means pretty, skinny, elegant woman that charms all that she meets. That's how it got the term Flakka. The component, the alpha PVP, from what we can see now, and Dr. Jim Hall, from the epidemiologist from Nova Southeast University, he figures that they could still make up about 30 different components out of this alpha PVP, but will still be called Flakka instead of changing the name. We're working with the Chinese government right now to outlaw, to raise the penalties on this drug, which they have done, working with us with MDPV, which was Molly, and bath salts, which are all the same drug. They're all cousins. They were just changed by changing a molecule, like an oxygen molecule a hydrogen molecule, a carbon molecule, and that made another drug, which when they were listed as being illegal, this would change the drug to make it legal again. But the outcome, which wasn't even being desired in the beginning, is it came up with a different effect of the drug besides making it legal, to where after alpha PVP now we already have ethylone, which is a direct relation to methylone, which was Molly. On the other spectrum is ethylone. And if anyone has seen the news reports out about the hard candy or the gummy bear candy that has a sugar coating on the outside, that's ethylone. And it's the same drug. It's just the next generation of alpha PVP. But you had MDPV, which was, or you had bath salts and MDPV, you had Molly's, alpha PVP, which is Flakka, and then ethylone. Now, there's even another component that we know that's coming out now, which is PHP, which is the same as alpha PVP, Flakka, but the way they've changed this is you actually be able to take more of the drug before you go into excited delirium. Now, this drug has a dopamine reuptake inhibitor in it, meaning that when you do a drug, your brain gets flushed with dopamine, which gives you the euphoric effect. When you have a dopamine reuptake inhibitor, once you release all of the dopamine and you feel the high, by doing more of the drug, you don't get any higher because the dopamine doesn't get retracted back into the brain. Like with crack cocaine, they used to say that chase the high. So, you keep wanting to do more to chase the high. With alpha PVP, there's no chasing the high. Once you release all the dopamine stays flooded out there, and all you're doing is overdosing and putting more of the drug in your system when you take more.
Wow, that is.
I see where there are some countries now that have banned Flakka. A lot of the chemical stimulant, the cation from cation.
This substance originally was manufactured as a research substance back in the 1960s as a form to treat ADHD. It was picked up by Austria back in the early 80s, and they banned it for the devastation it was doing in Austria. Now it's been kind of on the back shelf until the 2000s, and we started seeing a little bit in 2010. Our first case that we saw was in 2013. So that's what's bringing it back.
And what are the side effects, Don, for Flakka?
Well, the side effects are devastating. I've been doing this for 30 years now and been through the cocaine and the crack and all the pill mills and the heroin and the fentanyl, which we could talk about. And we used to think that crack cocaine was the worst drug that we would ever see. But now with these synthetic drugs, and when I give talks now and give speeches or do PowerPoint presentations about this drug, what I tell them right off, that back in the crack cocaine days, I might tell someone that it's devastating, you're going to lose your ambition, you're going to lose your family, you're going to lose your job, it's illegal, you might go to jail. But with this drug, synthetic drugs, and namely alpha PVP, what I tell the people is you do this drug, you're going to die. And at the very least, you're going to wind up on dialysis or a colostomy bag. Because what happens with this drug is you go into what we call excited deliriums, which is your body temperature starts to rise and you get a straight adrenaline that's pumped into the muscle. You get psychotic, paranoid, they get evil thoughts, they feel like they're being chased by people with machetes or packs of wild dogs. They perceive danger where there is no danger, but it's real to them. As they get this strength, the super strength from the adrenaline being pumped into the muscle, the body temperature goes up to between 105 and 108 degrees. At that point, the muscles start to melt and they release a protein which forms a sludge that goes into the bloodstream. This is called rhabdomyolysis. Now, this sludge goes through the bloodstream and clogs up the liver and kidneys. So a lot of these people are going to be lucky if they only go on dialysis and colostomy bags the rest of their life. Because this sludge, you could die right now. You could die tomorrow, or you could die 3 days from now from the clogging up of the liver and kidneys.
My God, that's like so scary. And so just don't understand if the first time you do this and this is what happens to you, why would people, want to do this? I mean, I don't get it. Like if they see these side effects.
It's that cheap and it's that addictive.
Yeah.
This started out to be a relapse drug. It was like 18 to 28. And then it went up 18 to maybe 35. Kids, it wasn't a first-time drug, and kids weren't using this the first time. But now they are lacing this into all other drugs.
Yeah.
Middle school kids that are just going out now thinking they're getting marijuana, sometimes are getting this laced into the marijuana, and for one use, they can go into excited deliriums. We have tracked some younger people that it's going on 9 months later, and they still can't think straight from the damage that's been done to the brain, because it burns the outer cortex of the brain and it damages the myelin cover of the spinal column.
So people don't know actually that they're doing Flakka. It's being laced into other popular drugs.
We call this a guinea pig drug right now. It tests exactly the same as cocaine, and it tests exactly the same as crystal meth. So Flakka is $1,500 a kilo. Cocaine is $32,000 a kilo. So if it tests exactly the same, it only makes sense to the drug dealers to cut the cocaine and put the Flakka into it, or use straight Flakka.
Wow.
We haven't had, now it's coming back with a vengeance, but we haven't had crystal meth around for a while.
Right.
They are making up the Flakka to look like crystal meth. We haven't had crack cocaine around for a while, but they make up the Flakka in the form of a crack rock, and somebody goes to a dealer looking for crack, the dealer says, I got something better and I got something cheaper. So they're selling the Flakka as crack. Now, because it's only $1,500 a kilo and cocaine is $32,000 a kilo. So that's how they maximize their profits. But now they're putting it into synthetic marijuana, and I heard your guest before talk about K2. This is all being laced with synthetic drugs right now. And different areas, it's all marketing. Up in New York right now on 125th Street in Harlem, they were talking about a month ago about some of the effects of drugs that are on the streets up there, and it sounded just like Flakka. And I looked into it a little further, and it turned out that it wasn't. It was spice and K2, but laced with a synthetic drug, and they're getting the paranoia and the psychosis and the excited deliriums. And all 125th Street is basically paralyzed right now from the drug use.
So from what I understand, Flakka can be smoked, snorted, injected. I mean, you can use it all different ways. What is it going to take? I know there's a huge epidemic of it down here in South Florida and Fort Lauderdale in your area and all, and in Palm Beach County. What's got to happen, and how difficult is this going to be? What's it going to take? Just because this is devastating. I mean, I grew up, in the addiction with my siblings and people I knew grew up. It was about cocaine, it was about crack, and then it went into heroin. But this is devastating. This is, I mean, even growing up in the late 60s and early 70s where we had, orange sunshine and mescaline and that type of thing. But this stuff ruins the brain and the body, for forever. What's it going to take, Don, to stop this? How hard is this going to be to stop this from coming into our country?
Well, no matter if you stop it or not, they'll come up with another drug. The reason it came into Broward County with a vengeance, we had the cocaine cowboys, we had the crack cocaine, we led the nation with the pill mills. Mm-hmm. Now, when it came into Broward County, they test marketed using the homeless people. And as soon as they did the test market one right, which we have in Broward County, besides the airport, the seaport, the nightlife, the water, the clubs, the ocean, and the people with money, what we have most importantly here is the middle level drug dealers. And all they need is another drug to sell. So they're always going to be looking for a drug because they have their whole corporation set up to deal with drugs. What I say when I go to treatment centers right now and talk to the people that are in recovery, to let them know how lucky they are to be able to be in recovery today. That maybe they did get caught up with drugs and alcohol. Maybe they did hurt their lives. But here they are in a treatment center, or they're going to the rooms of AA or NA, and they're turning their lives around. They're able to process. They're able to work a program of recovery. The people that are getting damaged with these synthetic drugs, with the damage to the brain, they can't participate in a treatment program. They can't work a treatment program. We've got to think about all different treatment protocols when we start to work on treating this drug. We need these evil psychotic thoughts are reoccurring. There's some of the people that I'm working with now, it's about 8 or 9 months later, they still have these thoughts every day. They can't sleep at night because they still perceive these evil thoughts as being real. They can't participate. They can't work a 12-step program. They're light sensitive. It has 9 months later, every day their eyes are still flashing, twitching, light sensitive. Their attention span is about 15 minutes, and they're afraid of groups of people. They're afraid of crowds. So where are we going to find individual therapy in a darkened room for 15 minutes? We don't have it. And there's no money for it. There's no such thing. We need to use, which we're using in BARC right now. I'm also the vice president of the advisory board of BARC. And Paul Falk just sent me the statistics the other day. We're starting to use psychotropic drugs, individual therapy. We've got to change all the treatment protocols. And this isn't going to be a 30, 60, or 90-day treatment. We're probably looking at about 2 years of treatment. So this drug is changing everything in every way that we look at treating substance.
Yeah.
What are the percentage of people who are being duped into, getting Flakka in another drug? If they're cocaine users or, crystal meth users, like you said, and they think they're buying that, as opposed to people who are actually just know what they're doing and addicted to this.
Good question. And as I just mentioned, even about the middle schoolers that just think they're going out to get marijuana, they never wanted this in the first place. They wanted marijuana. But once they get high on this is so addictive, they don't care about the marijuana anymore. They go looking for this.
Wow.
So people going out to get crystal meth, or people going out to get crack cocaine, or people going out to get marijuana, and they get this laced into it, then they go out looking for this, and it's so cheap. You talk about our homeless people. They can go out and shake a cup and get $3. This stuff started out to be $5, and it was called the $5 insanity. In fact, the first interview I did after Sheriff Scott Israel, when the community came out to the sheriff, they said, there's something new in our area. There's something different. There's a new drug. It's devastating our people. The sheriff came to me, and I saw him later on that same night. He said, Don, what is this? And I wasn't really up to speed with it. He said, well, find out everything you can find out. So thanks to Sheriff Scott Israel, Broward County and the Broward Sheriff's Office is leading the way for the whole country as far as Flakka research right now. We're doing presentations all through the state of Florida, out of the state of Florida. In fact, one of my cohorts, one of my colleagues right now is over in China this week, today, working on, getting to the bottom of this as far as working with the Chinese government to help ban this, to raise up the penalties and make this illegal, and to see what we're going to do in the future, because these so-called scientists over in China don't realize that they're making a drug. They just get an order for a substance, and just for an example, take Chinese drywall. If they can find a cheaper substance, they're going to substitute for a cheaper substance. So that's why every batch that comes over is different, and this stuff is so dose specific that some people could do this for a couple of months and get the desired high that they want. But all it takes is a couple of extra flakes or a different batch that was just made a little bit different or cooked at a different temperature and get completely different results and go right into the excited deliriums.
And these excited deliriums. Now, Michelle from Today Celebrate said she actually had someone in her homeless program that ended up stabbing another homeless man 17 times. And you're saying about evil thoughts. I mean, to me, it almost sounds like, an episode of The Walking Dead. Like people are turning into these crazed people.
Good example. And we all remember Rudy Eugene, the guy that was over the bridge that ate the homeless man's face off.
Yes.
Now, as I was just talking about the cousins of this drug, back from bath salts to MDPV to Molly to alpha PVP to ethylene, they're all related. They were just created by tweaking a molecule, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen. So even back 5 years ago, when it was bath salts, now we had K2 spiced and bath salts, because every batch is made differently, that could have been the exact same structure as alpha PVP today. So where back with Rudy Eugene, he went to the hip hop weekend down in Miami. They knew he was smoking spice and K2 and possibly bath salts. He went back to his car after the weekend. Someone messed with his Bible. He had all these evil thoughts. Well, he went out to find this evil person. And the first person he ran into on the causeway was Papa. He attacked him, started eating his face off, eating his eyes out, eating his nose off. God. People driving over the causeway saw this, were horrified, called the police. Police came and they couldn't pull him off, Papa. So they had to wind up shooting him and killing him. They went back to the car. They found that he had just drank 5 bottles of water. He had all his clothes off, so they knew he was hot. His temperature was up at about 106, 107 degrees. But it was about a week later when they did a blood sample. And all that came up in his sample was marijuana and synthetic spice. Well, we know now today that you need to get a sample, and this is just from the last 9 months since the sheriff had us looking into this, that even after death, this metabolizes out of your system. So you need to get a sample within 48 hours. And a urine sample is better than a blood sample to test this. So even 5 years ago, he was on a substance the same as Flakka today. Now, what I tell some people, and I'll get women, little grandmothers that say, oh, that's my boy, I can take care of him, I raised him. You see someone that's going into excited deliriums, they don't know who you are. I don't care if you're the mother or the grandmother. You get in front of them when they are that paranoid and psychotic and they think all these evil spirits are around them, they could eat your face off, and you could be the mother or the grandmother. What we have set up as a protocol is do not approach. Call 911. And then people say, well, he's going to get arrested. Well, he's not going to get arrested. He's high on a drug, unless he's committed another crime, or usually it's domestic violence. But if he's just high on the drug, he's not going to get arrested. He's going to get the help that he needs to save his life. We have protocols set up now that if you call the police and say that it's a Flakka case, they automatically call the paramedics. And we've set up and we've developed a cocktail. Usually it's Narcan, Haldol, and Benadryl. And it's an injection, and they try to time it so there's not extra trauma put onto the addict. So the police will subdue him, and then the paramedics will sedate him with the cocktail. And then with the high temperature, they carry cold packs to put between their legs and under their arms to bring down the body temperature, and then get them to the appropriate place that they need. I had one woman, she was down in a halfway house, 37-year-old woman, relapse on alcohol. Then she wanted to do some cocaine and then wanted to smoke a joint. Well, either the cocaine or the marijuana was laced with alpha PVP. She automatically went into excited deliriums and started to run because she thought she was being chased by these evil spirits. Well, she got to a bridge in Fort Lauderdale, jumped off the bridge. When she hit the water, her brain told her that she could breathe underwater. The people on the other side of the bridge saw her jump in. They jumped in, saved her. She woke up in the hospital. Well, 10 days later, from the eye infection, she was finally able to open her eyes, and they were treating her for severe hepatitis. 60 days later, the liver enzymes started to go down on their own. Turns out she never had hepatitis. but she had started to go through this process of rhabdomyolysis where the muscle was melting and sending the sludge through the kidney and liver. Well, her jumping off the bridge is actually what saved her life. It brought down the body temperature fast enough to where it was starting, but it stopped it and cooled her down quickly enough that it saved her life. I still follow up with this woman. She explains about how she's still putting up with the demons every day and these evil thoughts every time she tries to go to sleep. But she has to rationalize that it's not real because they perceive danger where there is no danger. They believe that they're being chased and they're going to be chopped up and these dogs are chasing. It's real in their mind. So that's one of the hardest things we have to do for her to stay clean and sober. Now, she just got her 6.5-month chip and she's working this program, and it's very, very hard. It's a totally different type of therapy, and working with these people, it's individual. It's understanding. They're dealing with a lot of different problems than traditional addicts that we normally deal with.
So, let me ask you a question, Don. What do parents need to know now? Is there anything to look out for that, warning signs that your child is doing a drug that has Flakka or doing straight Flakka? Absolutely.
And then some other drugs out there now and forms of marijuana called butter, wax, shatter, which are just marijuana. Back in the 60s, THC in marijuana was like 3 to 5%. Then we got hydroponics and the stronger strains of marijuana that went up to 15, 20%. Well, now they take the buds, the leaves, the stems, and they drain it through butane. And the THC level, and it comes out looking like a buttery, waxy substance. But the THC level is between 85 and 95%. So what kids are doing with this now, and every kid that has a vapor cigarette or electronic cigarette, they have some sort of a drug in it. There's no good that ever came out of these vapor cigarettes.
Really?
A dose is about the size of a Tic Tac. There is no telltale odor because it's vaporized. A game that they can do now in school is when a teacher turns around and leaves the room, they can pull out the vapor cigarette, take a hit off it, blow the vapor into their sleeve. It doesn't smell. There's no odor. They can smoke it all night long in their bedrooms and the parents don't know.
Wow.
They could be doing these synthetic drugs because the kids know what underground sites to get on, to have it mailed right to the house. Like I said, via UPS or DHL. They can go into their bedroom. Some parents that have finally caught and got wise to their kids have found stacks of envelopes where they've been getting these drugs for quite a while. The butter, the wax, and the shatter, this form of marijuana, and like I said, this is just marijuana. It's not laced with anything else. But the THC content of over 90% brings on all the same paranoia, psychosis, the erratic behavior. And because of the vapor cigarette, it's not like smoking a joint or getting on a bong and then going out and doing an activity. They're carrying this in their pocket, so they're smoking this stuff all day long, constantly. So they're rewiring their brains. Our brains aren't completely developed till we're 25 years old. And if you take a kid 13, 14, 15 years old with the brains just being developed, this is rewiring the brain completely to where their whole personality is going to be changed and they're never going to think clearly again.
Wow, that is
so sad. So very sad.
Unbelievable. Very, very scary. I mean, it's terrifying actually to think that, your child could be, experimenting with drugs and then get hooked into something like this. And then with these evil thoughts, and it's like hell on earth. It's really, and you've seen it. How much now how terrible is this problem from what you're seeing like per week? Are you seeing a lot of people just going absolutely insane from this, or is it relation to other drug overdoses? Like what is the ratio there?
Well, just as far as Broward Health, the one, there's some good and bad about all drugs. With this drug, this is the first time in the 30 years that I've been working on drugs in Broward County that we have a real partnership with Broward County Commission on Substance Abuse, Broward County Health, Broward County BARC, the Broward Sheriff's Office, the Fort Lauderdale Police Department, United Way, we're all working together on this drug. I just got a report on the 4th from Broward Health and a report on the 4th from BARC, Broward County Broward Addiction Recovery Center. Since June 1st to November 4th, we had 1,667 Flakka cases in the Broward Health System.
Oh my God.
A lot of these people, which you don't hear about, wind up on dialysis from the rhabdomyolysis. BARC is averaging about, now we admit around 150 clients a month through BARC. We get about 425 that go through access services trying to get in. Out of that 425, somewhere between 150, 200 get admitted. We're averaging 50 Flakka clients that we can even accept into BARC that aren't too far gone that we can't even accept. Now, a lot of times, and this is something that should really scare you, this shows up as a Baker Act, as a mental health issue, psychosis. So in the beginning, just a couple of months ago, they were all getting sent to a CSU, a crisis stabilization unit. Well, now we know, or they know, that if it's a Flakka case, it's not a mental illness, it's really a Marchman Act issue. So after one day, they might let them out. Sometimes they get lucky enough to get sent to a detox facility. Well, the detox is going to realize that if it's Flakka, it's only a psychological detox, it's not a physical detox. So they're going to let them out of there. Now, normally, if someone's gone to a CSU and then they've gone to a detox, the next progression would be to get into treatment. These people can't participate in a treatment program yet. They can't think that clearly. So they get let back out on the street because they don't want treatment. And you can't force somebody to go into treatment. You know, you can offer it to them, but they don't want it because the drug is that addictive. So even if they've gone through the excited deliriums and we've saved their life, they still go right back out and relapse again. And all they have to do is shake a cup and get $3 because it went from $5 to $3 to lace cigarettes that they were selling for $2 on the street. And right now, just to get people hooked, they can go most places and get this drug for free, because the dealers just want to get them hooked on it.
Oh my God.
It's now, you know, with all this going on, I mean, what from what I'm hearing you say, Don, is let me see here, at Today Celebrate, mentioned over here that we're creating, there's this huge mental illness problem via Flaca, and yet they're not really fitting into Baker's acting in the mental health department. They're not fitting into the recovery and the treatment. Seems to me there's going to increase a lot of homeless people.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they're not fitting anywhere. You know, where do they go to get the help? As you said, it's, you know, their program
needs to reach out to the federal government because we have problems coming up that we can't even imagine.
I know.
And this isn't something that we can just deal with locally. Now, what I said before about the super strength that they get, when you get a call, it takes sometimes 6 to 8 deputies to restrain one person. So that means you're pulling deputies from another zone, so you're leaving a zone empty with no coverage. The sheriff doesn't have any other money in his budget to hire more deputies. You know, the county commission is the one that controls the sheriff's budget. So that money would have to come from them. They don't have any money, so that has to come from the state. But we really need money coming from the federal government. So we need an outcry of people to contact their representatives to tell them, and let's start looking ahead, like the sheriff did when he started this task force to get out ahead of this synthetic drug. And, you know, thank the sheriff for doing that, because we'd be in more of a problem than we have right now if he didn't. But we're going to need money. We're going to have to come up with different treatment protocols, or just like you said, we're going to have psychotic people on the street, increase the homeless rate, dying on the street, and we need to take on some sort of responsibility to be prepared to be able to offer the treatment that we're going to have to offer. And like I said before, it's going to be long-term treatment. It's going to be years, not months.
And what kind of insurance is going to pay for that?
There's no insurance going to pay for that.
Exactly.
No, forget about it. And BARC is full. There's no more room in BARC. And like I said, the other thing with the damage that's being done to the brain, it's going to have to come up with different forms of treatment protocols because they are light sensitive and they have a short attention span and they're afraid of groups. Our famous IOPs right now, they're based on group therapy. Well, Flakka clients are going to be afraid of group therapy. So they're going to need more individual therapy.
Are you seeing, Don, that all of this is coming out of China? All of Flakka is coming out of China?
Just about all that we've seen, yes.
Yeah. And, I mean.
Now, we also have, just to scare you a little bit more, I mentioned before how we haven't seen very much crystal meth on the streets here. Well, it's coming back with a vengeance out of Mexico now with heroin that's almost pure and synthetic fentanyl, which is being laced into the heroin. We thought that would be coming into Broward County as the next drug, the fentanyl. But what they did, they kind of skipped us and went right into Palm Beach County, mainly Delray Beach, because all the treatment centers that are there and the halfway houses, they cater to the clientele from the Northeast, the opium addicts from the pill mills. So this synthetic fentanyl, now this isn't a medical grade fentanyl, this is synthetic. It's 10 times stronger than heroin, 100 times stronger than methadone. They're targeting these people to relapse. Someone that relapses on heroin-laced fentanyl that takes close to the normal dose that they were used to taking is an automatic overdose. A month ago, we had 3 overdose deaths in one Friday night, Delray Beach, from synthetic.
I saw that.
Fentanyl-laced heroin. Delray Memorial Hospital right now has like an express line of people driving through, not even stopping completely, knocking somebody out of the car that's overdosed on heroin, and then taking him into the emergency room and shooting him up with Narcan to pull him out of the overdose. But what they found out is that the Narcan wears off after an hour, but the heroin is still in their system, and they overdose again.
Oh, wow. And so if you were to see, now we live, both Debbie and I live in Boynton on the border of Delray Beach, how does somebody, and anywhere you live, I mean, obviously said do not approach. You see somebody on the synthetic drug on Flakka laced, they're going to be, you said they're going to avoid light. They're going to be, what should we watch out for that we know this is a dangerous person? Do not approach.
Well, just before someone might go into excited deliriums, you're going to see them appear to be very hot and sweaty. Usually they'll take their shirt off because they're hot. Their muscles will tend to get a little bit rigid. They get that look in their eye almost like a zombie. Their gait will be a little bit off. They'll sway side to side. That could be right before they're getting ready to go into excited deliriums and going to become completely psychotic.
Oh, my God.
You do not approach. And if they do go into excited deliriums, you definitely do not approach. You call 911. And you do not approach. You let the professionals come in there to get them the help that they need to save their life. Now, people need to remember they're an addict. They're a victim. They're on a drug. They're dying. They need to get the professional help they need to save their life. They're probably not going to be arrested if they haven't done another crime. They're dying. They're going through this process of the insides melting. And if they don't get the help they need quickly, they are going to die.
My God, this is just, I had no idea. I mean, this is why it's so important that we bring this awareness out to people. And I think the thing is, don't try to be a hero. If you see anybody acting irrationally, call 911. Do not try to go in and help that person because you could get in the midst of something very violent. We're probably going to be seeing a lot more. We probably have a lot of homicides and things right now that they're not saying that are a result of this. in the news, but that really were a result of somebody going psychotic on one of these drugs.
And if we do think that it is Flakka, something like that, when we call 911, we need to let them know that, so they bring in paramedics, correct?
Right, exactly.
And paramedics are now trained to know what to do and to handle.
We've trained all the paramedics, and we have Dr. Olsenati is part of our group, the CEO for Broward Health. Right, he comes out and makes presentations with us because he's so serious about this problem that he's taken it on. We have Dr. Kuna, who used to be ahead of all the paramedics. They are part of the ones that came up with this cocktail that we use to inject the clients with. They're trying to make it up into a nasal form so they won't have to be wheeling a needle around, but they still haven't done that yet.
Wow, just incredible. I mean, you hear the story.
Don't know where they are.
And you know what, Don, I have a friend who's a paramedic, and he and his partner were called on a Flakka. There was actually 3 of them. And they had the cocktail, to get, but they couldn't contain the person.
Right.
To give them the cocktail. This adrenaline rush.
Well, that's why it takes 6 to 8 deputies sometimes to hold a person down, and so they can give them the injection, and the Haldol will put them out, because they need to be out for a couple of days. And in the just a few months ago, 8 months ago, we used to think they would only go through excited deliriums once. Now, we've had some that we've taken to CSUs, to detox units, and then even some that were in custody before we realized that they can spike. They can go through multiple excited deliriums. So you need to be careful, because it can go on and happen again.
Wow. I wanted to see if we have a therapist here, Lori, who's been commenting on the side, and we have an open seat. Maybe, Lori, would you like to join in? Click the join button, and I know you have some questions for Dawn as well. There she is. Let me let her in.
Hi, how are you guys doing today?
Hi, Lori. I was just getting ready to type in and ask if you wanted to come in on it.
Thank you so much. I don't have any makeup on and my hair is pulled back in a ponytail, so I apologize for that. But yes, I'm so glad that you guys are talking about this important topic, because it is widespread throughout Florida. And like I was commenting over here, many, and like what Don was saying, many CSUs or Baker Act facilities or even Marchman Act facilities are not prepared to deal with this type of drug. They really are not trained. It's something that's fairly new. It's something that's new on the market, and it is mimicking a lot of the schizophrenia symptoms. And so individuals are not necessarily looking at it in any kind of way. And also testing for it to see what they are on is also very limited at times, unless you're in an ER facility.
I'm glad you mentioned about testing. We have a test for it, but it has to be an individual test.
Yes.
I've actually heard some people say that they had a 9, 12, or 14 panel test.
It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. No,
it doesn't work. Because
it tests exactly the same as cocaine. Right. They'll change the label, and they'll take a cocaine label off and put an alpha PVP. Mm-hmm. We work with we do 1 million tests a year for the Broward Sheriff's Office with our drug court programs.
Good.
This individual test started out being $141.50 per test.
It's expensive.
We have got one drug agency now, drug company, down to $35 a test for an individual test. And this has to be an individual test. The problem with getting a company to work with us on this is they had to be willing to redo their testing every time they might change a molecule or an oxygen or nitrogen, because that makes it a different drug. So we have a company now that's working with us, but it's still $35 a test.
That's a huge expense for a nonprofit organization or a county facility that is mainly taking these individuals in, because once they are picked up, regardless of what insurance they may be on, it isn't like you were saying, Debbie, before, what insurance is going to pick up on that. It's not. They're not.
Now, I'm finding a lot of problems. Insurance companies don't want to do detox for synthetic drugs.
No, because they think it's just going to go out of their system. Just send them to the ER, let them have observation, and let it come out of their system within a period of time. And ship them back out. And that's just not how it works. And I'm glad that you brought up, Don, that when they go in there for the Narcan and they get all those things, and when they go back out, they don't know that they're still high.
No. And what's really scary now, they're starting to sell Narcan over the counter in certain drugstores. And the addicts are carrying a locket around their neck with Narcan in it. They're telling their friends that if they have a overdose, telling them how to shoot them up with the Narcan.
Yes.
But the problem is it wears off after an hour, and they can still overdose on the heroin that's in their system or the fentanyl that's in their system.
So I'm glad that you said that, because I was at the Joint Commission Accreditation Conference, because I work with organizations preparing for, as well as re-accreditation, preparation for Joint Commission as well as for CARF. And this is not something that they are familiar with. Of course, they talk about opiate treatment, but they are not anything talking about synthetic drugs, even K-Spice. I mean, we're talking about all those other synthetic kind of forms of drugs that you can easily get that are not necessarily, okay, they are illegal, but how you get to that isn't necessarily always illegal. That's another story for another day. Right, Don? Another story for another day. But while I was there, they were talking about how SAMHSA is coming down with multiple different $1 million in the 2016 for Narcan studies, and being able to put it not just to first responders, but like in the hands of other individuals to prevent overdose. And for me, that's like similar to diabetes insulin shots, where you can get it over the counter. Not that you can get diabetes medication.
Your voice is going down. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry. Not that you can get diabetes medication over the counter, but it is not as, it's more readily available than it would be somewhere.
Yeah, and I just heard that now that they're going to be selling this in a double dose, 2 like capsules of it,
right,
whatever, knowing that it wears off, so there will be a double dose in what they're selling over the counter.
Right, and I'm so glad that you're here bringing this up and talking about it. So are you so for my question is, are you a addiction therapist, or are you one of the working with the sheriff's department? Tell me a little bit about what you were doing, because I caught.
No, I'm a certified addiction professional. I'm a CAP. So I've been doing this for, like I said before, a little over 30 years. I was involved with starting drug court in the beginning and developed some of the alternative sentencing programs that we have that we use in the drug court, in the courthouse court programs.
Great.
I do. The sheriff has had me start an equine therapy program that we offer to non-for-profits in Broward County. I'm using that for some of the civil citation kids, and now with more of the civil citation adults in that program.
That's wonderful.
The sheriff believes in recovery, and both the sheriff and his wife, they're great that way. They know recovery works, so they've kind of, charged me to go out and do whatever we can do to help the community.
And I think that's wonderful. I think that because I'm where I moved from but my business is still there, because I work with the diversion program with adolescents that are charged with domestic violence towards their parent or caregiver in Seminole County. And if you have an incredible sheriff backing you up, your county can do incredible things.
It's fantastic.
If you do not have that and you're not linking, it makes it even more difficult, because it becomes more criminalized, and it becomes more helping an individual get the help or treatment that's needed.
Right.
Don, today at Celebrate says, and we here in Broward County are so very thankful to you, Mr. Don.
Oh, that's
Thank
wonderful.
You. Yes.
Let me ask you guys a question. Is there currently any programs going on in the schools in Broward or Palm Beach to let kids know, and college kids know, that if they're,
That's a good question.
The marijuana?
Glad you brought that up. Another good news, bad news. Palm Beach County has some programs, and they have the LSIS program, which is a peer mentoring program. I've been trying to get those programs started in Broward County for a couple of years now. And now, amongst other reasons, but because of the problem we're having with these synthetic drugs, we've just opened up. The school board is working with me now. The school board members, we're working with the principals, and we're getting these programs In fact, I'm starting out doing some PowerPoints in the schools, middle schools and high schools, and then want to get the peer mentoring program into those same schools. But I also want to get some Al-Anon or codependency programs in for the parents. Because we don't work with the parents, it's not going to help with the kids.
I agree with that.
And I try to tell everybody, like I get calls from parents all the time, and my child, this, that, and they keep doing everything to try to help them. And I try to explain to them, well, addiction is the one disease that you can love somebody to death.
Mm-hmm.
And every once in a while it clicks, and then we get to save a person.
Mm-hmm.
And what age do you both agree would be an appropriate age to start educating a child in elementary school or middle school about drugs in general? I mean, when
right now we've got the DARE program in 5th grade, and when I started talking about bringing the programs into middle schools and high schools, I was reminded, though, well, we have the DARE program in 5th grade. I said, well, what about middle school and high school? And they said, well, there's a residual effect. I said, not hardly. We need to carry it on into, I did an after-school program last week. It was 6th and 7th graders that I was kind of leery about for some of the videos that I show in the PowerPoint. They knew about everything at that age.
Mm-hmm. Really?
8th grade is a good age. We need to be in there, and we definitely need to be in high school. Every hip-hop artist that's out there and every hip-hop song glorifies the use of synthetic drugs. Okay. It's all pop a Molly and watch her sweat and put a Molly in her champagne. And we did a couple of presentations at the end of last year before school got out. And one of the deputies, one of the lieutenants, knows all these songs, and he put these hip hop songs on the video. And it's every hip hop artist, not just a couple, it's every one. Well, every kid in the audience knew every word to every song. Mm-hmm. And it's all about glorifying synthetic drugs. So I hate to be a hypocrite. I grew up in the 50s with rock and roll and Elvis Presley, and the parents back then were horrified about rock and roll. But this is different. This is glorifying a drug. This is playing a game that if you're with someone at a restaurant or a club, your buddy comes by and puts something in her drink. This isn't a date rape drug. This is a drug that makes her the aggressor. And then he comes by the next day and says, you can thank me now. Well, once she realizes what happens, they both get arrested, and they both have to sign up as sexual predators the rest of their life. So, this is not a joke. Mm-hmm. But that's what's happening with these drugs. And there's no taste, there's no smell. They can lace it in anything. They can put it in the dip, they can put it in a punch, they can put it in your drink, and you don't know.
And that's
this ethanol, the sugar coating that goes on the outside of candy. I mean, that stuff looks so good. I would have taken a handful of it myself and eaten it. It just looks like candy. Mm-hmm. And, that could be given to kids. The synthetic marijuana and the K2 that your caller talked about before, that comes in bags, and it's called Scooby Snacks, and it's all in bright, colorful packages.
And that's been gone for
a while, but we just found another warehouse full of empty packages of Scooby Snacks, which are getting ready to be refilled with synthetic drugs, possibly laced with alpha PVP, Flakka, and they're going to be distributed possibly to kids again. Yes. And that's what they smoke in the electronic cigarette and the vapor cigarettes. So we have a whole other problem that's coming back up.
Yeah, I mean, shouldn't we be starting even at elementary school in first grade saying, do never accept, there's in a certain way because what if a little kid is given by an older kid, like a 7-year-old or something, is given these Scooby Snacks or these gummy bears? I mean,
I'm going to pop out, guys. So if someone wants to pop in to ask questions,
thank you so much.
But thank you so much, guys.
Bye, thank you.
Lori, so much.
Don, I mean, bravo for you and the bravery of what you're doing in this epidemic that you're up against. And I wish you all the best from one therapist to another that works in this field. It's amazing what you can see. And Christina, just to say briefly, it's even before they even hit school to talk about drugs.
Okay.
Yeah. It's even before then, I think. I mean, and it has to be age appropriate. And when we talk about don't talk to strangers, let's not take things from strangers.
But we just definitely have to get into the middle schools, school and high schools.
And even elementary school.
Let them be aware that they can't trust anything.
I mean, I've seen kids get
women, if you go to a club,
stuff,
and it doesn't have to be a drink, it could be anything, but if you leave and you go to the bathroom, you do not come back and drink the drink that you left there.
No.
You either take it with you or you get another drink. You don't trust anything being later
in a club. Yeah.
And I tell you, bye guys.
Bye, Lori.
Bye, Lori.
What's scary today too is that there's so many people out there, young and older people, even our age, Don, that, old hippies and all, that feel like, smoking marijuana recreationally, there's nothing wrong with smoking marijuana. I'm not a drug. I don't do other drugs. I just smoke weed once in a while. And to think that the weed, can be laced with the Flakka today is very scary.
That's really scary. Really
and
scary.
That's mainly what I try to do when I do the presentations and PowerPoints. I try to get the point across. And normally people say, well, you scared me. And I said, well, that's what I tried to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
We need to be really afraid of these drugs because this is devastating. This
isn't like, the devastation when people, of course, that are have been hooked on crack and cocaine and heroin and even this is, it puts a whole new spin on. Christina and I work a lot with treatment centers, and it puts a whole new ballgame, a whole new spin on treatment centers, because I don't see how they can even take in these Flakka people.
No, they can't.
They can't.
They're dangerous.
There's some treatment centers, and we're able to work with some of the Flakka patients, even with Bark, that haven't gotten to that level. They haven't gone through the complete excited delirium with a total brain damage. You can catch a lot of them before that happens, and you can start a treatment program, but then you have to remember they still are going to be light sensitive. They're still going to have problems with their eyes. The concentration is still going to be off, and they're going to be somewhat afraid of groups. And those evil thoughts, though, are still going to be reoccurring. So that's one of the things we have to deal with.
It's such
individual therapy, dealing with those evil thoughts.
It's such a drug of paranoia and fear.
Right.
This is just unbelievable. I mean, we're so grateful to you, Don, for coming and doing this with us today, because this is something that's opened my eyes. I'm scared. I mean, I think we need to get this word out to every parent. Ultimately, we can't rely on the schools. Parents, if you're watching this, you have to talk to your kids, age appropriate, start young, and scare them. Definitely. I know Lori shared a video. I haven't watched it, on the side here of somebody on Flakka. So we need to all be careful, who we approach and how we, what we do. Guard your drinks, like you said. Be careful when you're out. Don't accept things from people you don't know. Right? That would be your main thing. Who are your kids hanging out with? What crowd? Is likely to be giving them this. It's more important than ever. It's not just the addiction of the past where, if this is really serious, life-threatening, actually insanity type. That's why I compared earlier to I've only seen one episode of The Walking Dead, and I just popped in my mind. This is exactly like these people are out of their minds. They'll attack you. I mean, this is like a living horror story with this drug. So we need to all spread the word about this. And Debbie, Jimmy, I know we've had a lot of Don's time. It's almost 1 o'clock, so I want to thank him.
Yes, so much. We've really gone over our time, but it's been so interesting.
Yeah. I'm going to check out of the room.
We will be sharing this all over social media and email. We'll be getting this out there because it's such important, vital information for people to hear.
Stay in touch, and for any large groups of people or towns or community centers, I do go out and do PowerPoint presentations to bring the awareness up. The sheriff has me out doing that. So stay in touch, and if anybody needs me to get to a group to educate them, just let me know.
Can you tell our listeners or people that are on right now, Don, what's the best way that you prefer for them to get in touch with you?
They can get a hold of me through the Broward Sheriff's Office, through the Broward County Commission on Substance Abuse, or send me an email to Donald_Maines@sheriff.org.
Yes, and Maines is M-A-I-N-E-S.
Yes.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, Don. And if anybody wants to get the next issue of Addiction 911 magazine, which this will be featured in, you can just go to addiction911magazine.com, and everything is 100% free. You have our past 2 issues, and you'll be registered to get our upcoming issues, which will come out in a couple weeks. So thank you so much, Don. And
Thank you.
Spread the word. Yeah, share and spread the word. Thank you so
Thanks,
much.
Don. God bless.
Bye now.